Let us know when we are live. Let's
Okay.
see. Okay. Says we are live. Edward, please confirm. Thank you so much for joining me again for another edition of LinkedIn Live and another Ask the Author.
Whatever you want. So you can have F words in the title, you can have all of that stuff, and they will absolutely accept your book and print on demand for you and all of that good stuff. However, you will not be able to run ads if you have anything that they deem a bad word or inappropriate in your title. Pissed is one of those words, apparently. With or without the exclamation point. I thought I was being so savvy and softening the blow of that semi-bad word. I didn't even think it was a bad word, but whatever. I've even considered changing the title, but somehow, Chemo Ticked Me Off just doesn't have the same ring. So
or chemo angered me. I started thinking about this actually.
Right. Like the me and that title, we're going down with the ship. I'm in it for the long haul, and it's just going to be what it is. But it has absolutely made it much tougher to promote and market my book. So for anyone out there that doesn't understand that, when you look up anything on Amazon that you're trying to buy, they will automatically put items in your scrolling feed that are running Amazon ads, and it will say sponsored next to them. So just for all the listeners out there, that's what that means. You will never see my book sponsored. I will never get to put my book in front of your face intentionally for anyone researching chemo, breast cancer, whatever. So that's what's unfortunate about that.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing it. And yeah, I mean, I still, almost 2 years later, invest in Amazon advertising every single month. So I could really appreciate that. And I had no idea, by the way, people watching, listening, until Carol told me. So, all right, let's jump to a lot of people get cancer. Luckily, fortunately, many people survive cancer, but most people don't write a book. So why did you write this particular book?
And that is a great question. And it's the answer to that is something I visit regularly, especially with the challenges I have marketing the book. The simple answer is I wrote it for the me that I used to be when I was diagnosed. And when maybe I'm not getting the sales, or when I'm not getting the book out there to as many people as I would like, I remember it's about that one person who's got the deer in the headlights look, who's sitting in the doctor's office going, what do I do now? That's who I wrote the book for. So, and I even take it a step further. It's like one of those things that you do in your life that, God willing, you never have to do again. In a way, it's kind of like getting married. You go through all that stress of planning that wedding, and it's not something you do every Saturday. Am I right? So what do you do with...
You may get married again.
I mean, you definitely may. Obviously, that's not a perfect example, but it is something that you're not going to do 100 times in your life, arguably, right? What do you do with all that knowledge? What do you do with all those shortcuts? What do you do with all those cool little tips that you found along the way? You hopefully get to pass that on. That's exactly what my motivation was here with this book, is that I learned a lot, and I keep thinking there are more people out there that felt like me, wanted answers, didn't know where to go, stuff was feeling off about all of the information or the lack of information they were getting. So
yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And just to be clear for everyone, you can still buy Carol's book on Amazon. She just can't advertise. So we have scrolling at the bottom, Chemo Pissed Me Off. So be sure to go to Amazon and check that out. So we are going to dive into things in the book that really just stuck out to me. That's the one thing I really love about Kindle. I like physical books, but with Kindle, I can highlight and then just download all my highlights. So I have them in front of me. And this was something that really grabbed me, because I would not say your book is spiritual. It's funny, but not necessarily spiritual. But this really caught my attention when you said, we are not who we think we are. We are not who others think we are. We are who God says we are. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you meant by that?
Yeah, actually, that I believe I was quoting my pastor, and I believe he might have been quoting one of his favorite authors. So again, I can't claim that for myself, but it is something that I try to remember all the time, because I get caught up in people pleasing. That's a whole rabbit hole that we don't have to go down. But I do feel like sometimes people who have that personality trait might actually be some of the sicker people in the world, because we just take on so much. And that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of internal hamster wheel stuff, right? So I sometimes have to try to get myself off of that hamster wheel and remember, at least for me in my faith, the bigger picture. So it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about how well we're loving each other on this planet in this walk. We all get we all get one time on the merry-go-round, and what are we hoping to accomplish? Like, when we all get pissed, none of us are perfect. We all have our moments. But, at the end of the day, I hope that I am being a person that God, the higher being that you believe in, would be proud of, would be like, this is what I designed you for. This is what you were made for, to love people, to see them through my eyes, because I'll tell you, you see that person that just, whatever, they piss you off for whatever reason, they stole your parking spot, they were mean to your face, whatever, but if we could all just take a step back for a moment in those moments and just say, okay, but God loves that person just as much as he loves me. And whenever I'm being like my less than stellar self, I still want him to love me. So in turn, wouldn't that person want the same thing? So hard to do, but yeah. That's the goal.
And I just want to remind people watching, whether you're watching it live, you're watching this later, please put any comments, questions you have in the chat. And so I will relay them to Carol, and we will respond to them. And also want a big shout out to Randy Lopez. Randy said, thank you. Randy's someone who shared his story previously. So thank you so much. This kind of goes into what we were talking about before we went live, where you live in a small town and you have this great line, I'm going to pull it up, that you are incapable of small talk. So how did your relationship, you just said you were a people pleaser, how did your relationship to the people in your community change before you had cancer and then after you had cancer and wrote this book?
Oh yeah, that I would definitely say that the changes are huge. So I have to work at it. My default setting is definitely wanting people to like me, wanting to please everyone. I have a really big thoughtful streak. Okay, so, and I'm not even trying to pat myself on the back for that, because that comes with its own baggage, right? Of being overly thoughtful and wanting people to be comfortable and people to be happy, and But I absolutely now get very still in moments of people's disappointment in me. And I just sit with it, because it's not about me. And even if it's about me, it's not about me. And that's something I've said for years, but I didn't really walk in that truth. I would say it because I wanted it to be true, but for my life, it really wasn't true. I was still trying to jump through hoops. And now when I even feel the urge to do that, I try to get very still and ask myself what that motivation is. Because if my motivation is truly to help another guy out, that's one thing. But if the motivation is to try to manipulate or control the affection or approval I'm getting from others, that's just not something I want to be about anymore. It's not something I ever wanted to be about. It's just something that I did, maybe a learned behavior from childhood baggage. So
yeah, I think if you are people pleasing and you put yourself out there and you're always doing so much, but then you feel unappreciated, then it does sort of become manipulation, because and you become almost a martyr. And I'm speaking from personal experience, where you're like, well, no one appreciates me. No one does. And you just kind of have to let that go. And one of my favorite books, very simple book called The Four Agreements. And I have those four agreements like right here on my desktop monitor, right here, labeled, everything. And the two that are my favorite out of four are: don't take anything personally and don't make assumptions. And so whenever I get to that place you were just talking about, I go back to that and just try to, like, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions. And I have a great example, and she's never on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, so I could say it. Really good friend of mine didn't remember my birthday last month. And I was really disappointed. I mean, I didn't even get a text, like nothing. Okay.
Oh,
And I go out of my way to remember people's birthdays. And I do my best to, buy cards and stuff. I don't always mail them on time. I'm sort of notorious for that, but I do. And I got really upset. And it had nothing to do with me, you know. Her
yeah.
not remembering my birthday that's just who she is.
Yeah.
It's just who she is. So, um, I want to go on to this next thing also, just because I relate to it so, so much. And I've said this, I don't know, at least my entire adult life. You get far angrier, you said in your book, in the protection of those you love than in your own defense. And I feel exactly the same way. Like, people think I have such a crazy temper. They should have met me 20 years ago. But I'm
Right.
very quick to forgive
Me
if you've
too.
hurt me.
Dude.
But if you've hurt someone I love, whoa, whoa. So tell me what you meant by that, and give us an example if you can.
Oh boy. There are so many examples, so many examples. I just, so if kids were mean to my kids, I would absolutely take my adult knowledge and anger into that moment and sometimes forget that they're just kids figuring it all out. And I would just want to like go off on them or, parent somebody else's kid because how dare they treat my kid like this? That's probably the best example. But, I just, it's anybody. I mean, it's anybody that I love. I am just fiercely loyal and such an advocate for those that I love, and I want for them every good thing that they want for themselves. I'm the true cheerleader for the people that I love, honestly. So, yeah,
Yeah, me
gets me
too.
gets me in a little bit of trouble sometimes. But again, I love what you said. Where you should have seen me 20 years ago because
Right?
my husband, he is just such a saint, right? And he's
Aw.
in it for the long haul, and for better or worse, and all of that. And I mean, he can absolutely attest to that. Like you should have seen her by way back then. This is nothing. She's actually kind of calm right now.
Right? I know. I'm much calmer. Uh, oh gosh. Oh, and by the way, thank you, Randy, for wishing me happy birthday. Oh gosh, so you just that's sweet. Something you just said. Oh shoot. Oh gosh. What is it? What is it? All right, all right. It's out of my mind. Darn it. I will come back to that. So tell us a little bit about when you were diagnosed with breast cancer,
Mhm.
and the next thing I'm going to bring up from your book that I feel like I hear from almost everybody, regardless of the cancer type or stage or
Yeah.
where they were treated or what treatments they had. I think any person who's ever been diagnosed with cancer can relate to this next statement, where you said that it really baffles you that there's not more cohesion between the holistic and the homeopathic traditional and modern medicine world. So talk to us a little bit about when you were diagnosed and, what your interaction was with these different parts of medicine.
So I knew that I really did not want to take part in the toxic treatments. I did it anyway, but that's another story. I
We're
want to.
coming to that. It's the title of your book.
Right. So I just was looking for, I mean, I left no stone unturned looking for a way to escape those treatments without just straight up ignoring medical advice. Right. And I just find it just astounds me that doctors have zero input on things like lifestyle, diet, exercise. Some of them do. Some of them give a half-hearted effort, but the truth is they're just not even taught that. They are absolutely taught how to diagnose and then write prescriptions for medications that hide the symptoms instead of getting to the bottom of the why.
Mm.
So the why for me would be the lifestyle, the diet, the stress levels, those kinds of things. And it's just not even talked about. And we know more now. We are a much more savvy society where we have access to information. And not only do we have access to it, but we're curious about it. And we want those answers now. So they're not going to get away with the kind of things that I heard. It's just bad luck. Oh no, you don't have to change anything. In fact, if anyone deserves a shot of tequila, it's you.
Oh my God.
What now? Just so I, I don't understand how we are letting doctors get away with this anymore. And I'm not saying that I'm not against doctors. I mean, gosh, the one thing I would say that I'm the most guilty of in my lifestyle and my health and all of that is listening to my doctors and doing exactly what they said. But sometimes it's done me a little dirty. So it's made me question things. It's made me, start looking in other places. And gosh, it's like, I wish we could all get along. The average Joe does not have the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to put out on holistic and homeopathic and naturopathic methods.
Yeah.
But they're valid and they're good. And holy cow, are they expensive? So it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate.
So, and I didn't tell Carol we're going to do this. I want to run through a checklist with you and you just say yes or no, any of these things that you did.
Okay.
Surgery,
Yep.
reconstruction,
Yep.
chemotherapy,
Yep.
radiation,
Yep.
physical changes, like lifestyle changes in terms of exercise,
Yes.
lifestyle changes in terms of diet,
Absolutely.
lifestyle changes in terms of spirituality.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you didn't do?
No, a couple things you left out. I did endocrine therapy, which is a hormone blocker, and that absolutely messes with you. It's the devil, but it's a necessary evil sometimes. What else? Like a lot of emotional work, whatever you want to call it.
Therapy? Did you go to
There,
therapy?
not this time around, but yes, I've definitely gone to therapy. I've done some self-help stuff. Yeah, a lot of different methods of that. So
Okay. All right.
spiritually, mentally, emotionally, yeah.
Okay. Going into staying with the same theme, you have to read Carol's book, anyone who's watching, because you will laugh out loud, like laugh out loud. And this next thing you said just cracked me up because of the way you phrased it. It's a cancer factory of robots. So can you tell us a little bit more what you meant by that?
Yeah. So when you're going through all of these appointments, it is seemingly, absolutely a foregone conclusion that this is how it's going down. Here's your diagnosis, and here's what we give you. It's this cookie cutter approach, and we're not cookies. Everybody's different. And so, yeah, I struggle with the words, at least any nice ones. Okay. God, I can't
There's
with
no
this.
censorship here. Say whatever you want.
Well, I walk in for a consultation and they start giving me, packets of crap and a parking pass. So when I come here every day, I don't have to pay to park. I'm like, who's coming here every day? I'm coming here for answers right now. I'm not a patient yet. And no one gets that memo. They just get you in there like you're on an assembly line and just start telling you how it's going down. And you and me, we're going to be together for the next 6 months, or we're going to do this every day. We're going to, whoa, wait, time out. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
It's just what we do. We get the diagnosis and we sign up for the toxic treatments. End of story. These doctors, it was really funny. These doctors, it was almost like when you buy the car on the lot that has the price and there's no negotiation. You just walk in.
Good analogy.
You know what I'm saying? So there are some dealerships still where you can go in and haggle, and then there are other ones that have that fair value pricing or whatever, and there's just this is what it is. That's how those doctors treated me. And I was like, oh, hold up. I'm going to need the sales pitch because I'm not done. I'm not convinced yet. I'm going to need a little bit more here.
Yeah, you said this very well too. You said, I want to believe there's a much better way than basically killing the cancer host, that's me, until the cancer dies, and hoping the host, that's me again, survives the treatment. And I felt the same way with my sister. I mean, when they brought in the chemotherapy and this IV, and it actually has a skull and crossbones on it. Like, I can't make that up. And the nurse is decked out like in a hazmat suit or something. And I just look at her, and there was a moment there where I was like, okay, so I'm putting poison into my little girl. Like, that's what we're doing because supposedly that might help. So what is the better way? But what is the better way?
Yeah.
Are you okay? Oh, are you all right?
Yeah, it pisses me off. It really just pisses me off. I can't say it enough. And sometimes I just wonder how one guy, me, can make a difference. Somebody who's not a doctor, who's not medically trained, who makes it a full-time job to find answers, and I still don't have them. It just pisses me off because I just know that there's a better way. I've read the research, and yeah, it's bullshit. I'm sorry. It is bullshit.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry at all. And I want to share with you what someone on LinkedIn said. For some reason, I don't know their name, but it says you're LinkedIn user. So thank you, LinkedIn user. It says, I love this idea of not treating us as cookies. We are cookie creators, not cookies. I love that. We are cookie creators. Carol, what role did insurance play in your decisions? Because you also have this great line where you talk about that I love how the insurance companies have become the real doctors. They decide what you need and for the most part just determine what you will get. And that's 100% true.
Yeah.
In fact, just last week I was talking to a cancer survivor, and she was talking about how the key word is contract. So if you ask a physician, do you work with my insurance company? You don't say work with, are you contracted with my insurance company?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your experience with insurance.
So the biggest thing is that I still suffer from lymphedema. For anyone who doesn't know, that's swelling in a body part that has been affected by radiation. And they even dance around that. They don't entirely blame it on the radiation. However, before I signed up for radiation, this is a possibility of a side effect from radiation. So now that it's happening, they dance around it of what's responsible for it. Insurance decided that 12 times is what I needed with the occupational therapist to treat my lymphedema. So after 12 times I'm on my own, I'm still actually trying to get a renewed referral for that and getting insurance to approve that, or I pay for it out of pocket. I have found people who do this type of treatment on the side, and it's $75 a session out of pocket. Some of these, and that would arguably need to happen every day. The idea is that you're getting your lymph system to function in a way that deviates from the normal path it would take, because those lymph nodes have been shut down by radiation and your lymph system can't flow the way that it normally does. You're basically rerouting a river, if that helps people understand. So meanwhile, I continue to swell and I continue to have these issues and I can't get any answers. So it's sometimes 6 months to get in to see. I've been waiting. And again, we have a little bit of a COVID issue. So I've had an appointment rescheduled 3 times with like a thoracic cardiologist, a thoracic specialist of some sort. But he's actually a heart doctor, but he deals with a lot of lymphedema. And so I've been referred to him, but the appointment's been rescheduled 3 times. And we've been dealing with this since January. And my next appointment is in November. So, so that's going to be almost a year. And we'll see if I actually get to see him this time. In the meantime, I've asked to see some reconstruction surgeons, plastic surgeons. And again, it can't just be regular plastic surgeons. It's got to be plastic surgeons who are familiar with reconstruction, because I even said it in my book that, reconstructed boobs are not like the store-bought plastic boobs that we're getting so that we can look like a rock star, right? It's much different. And naked, it's not rock star material. I'll just be frank. Okay. It's just not.
No centerfold shoots anytime soon. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, no, it's just, yeah. Anyway, but my point is I had to look high and low, and I'm asking these oncologists and radiologists if they can refer me to a plastic surgeon who's familiar with that. And I literally get the blank deer in headlights stare from these people. They don't have those referrals for me. They don't have recommendations. My team of doctors is in one of the leading hospitals in the country. Like, this is not some slacker hospital. And I still can't get my answers out of them, which makes me go, where do I go now? Like, so this appointment, this consultation I'm going to get with the plastic surgeon, that's 6 months from now.
Oh gosh.
But because I was getting really fired up in the appointment with the oncologist, I got a little heated. She wanted to refer me to a psychiatrist to deal with my emotions. And I said a 4-letter word, and I said, I'm not depressed. If I could just get some effing answers, I'd be super happy, actually. So I'm like, yeah, wow. But I said, you know what? Fine. Hey, just give me the referrals. I'm like, I can keep paying you the copays. I can cross the T's, dot the I's, if that's what's going to get you to give me the answers that I'm seeking. So I have a video consult with a psychiatrist. I said, what I don't need is more damn drugs that make me feel like crap.
Yeah.
I need some answers. I need to find out how to deal with my lymphedema. I need to find out how to not exacerbate it. The laundry list of do's and don'ts for lymphedema is astounding and a little ridiculous. I mean, it's like the fairy tale, The Princess and the Pea times 100. It's
Give us 2 do's and don'ts, because I hear about the side effects of lymphedema from so many different patients, and it can be in different parts of your body. So tell us like 2 do's and 2 don'ts so people learn.
okay. So the most ridiculous one is avoid bug bites on the area. Well, isn't that always the goal? And did you tell the bugs that I'm off limits?
Like, I have a bug bite right here, right now, and one on my leg, and
yeah, it's seriously, stupid. So don't get too hot, don't get too cold. Okay. So, but exercise. So when I'm exercising, do I need to hop off the treadmill as I break a sweat so that I don't get too overheated? Or I'm like, it's so ridiculous. It's just, yeah. But I mean, I'm here, I'm doing it. I'm on my little hamster wheel of, not to mention, I guess maybe I am a little anxious, and maybe I do need a psychiatrist or something, because it's a little freaky. Like, you're like, oh, are those mosquitoes? Sorry, I can't go outside right now. Could you give me the temperature for today so that I know how to dress? And I mean, good Lord, it's a little insane.
Aw. Well, I want to share this with you. Our mysterious LinkedIn user, Manpreet Bawa. Carol, you are awesome. So yeah, I want to share that with you. So, all right. Let's since we are talking, and you mentioned that reconstruction is quite different from just getting a regular breast augmentation. Let's talk about this next very, very funny line in your book. Some might prefer the look where your boobs enter the room 5 minutes before you do.
Yeah.
So tell us what you meant by that, and what sort of decisions did you make when it came to reconstruction?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I had this opportunity to get these boobs that were going to defy gravity. I mean, I had already, my boobs had seen 2 children. They, we're talking gravity. I'm, middle-aged now, whatever. So they'd seen better days. So, I go for this double mastectomy, and I have this opportunity to get some boobs that just stand up on their own and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, so I was looking at things going, well, we could go Pamela Anderson, we could go Baywatch, or, so I just opted for something that looked like God was just really nice to me. It like you'd kind of maybe scratch your head and go, are they? Or that's, I think, the sweet spot. That's just my personal opinion. But, I had the opportunity, so I took it, and I thought, yeah, let's just make these look like God was really, really generous to me.
Okay, I love it. And again, if you have any questions, whether you're watching this right now live or you're watching it later, please throw them in the chat, in the comments. Oh, another one. I think this is the same person. Thank you so much for tuning in. First, they make you anxious, and then they send you to therapy. This is all part of the game. God, how
Yeah.
sad is that, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, it's all about drugs. It's all about the prescription. And again, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but that we have proven decades ago that there are much cheaper, less toxic ways to battle cancer. And it doesn't even have to mean no chemo. So
Right.
to all of the big pharma money people out there, you can still do chemo. Maybe you just do a little less, because there are ways to make the cancer cells more susceptible, to weaken the cancer cells themselves, and then give the cancer patient half of the chemo that they would normally recommend and
Right.
have the same results. In fact, better results, because the host, me, isn't as sick.
Right. Right. If you see me looking down, however, I'm just taking notes because things I want to ask you. Here's what floored me about chemotherapy with my sister. Was she took a turn for the worse when we
Mhm.
were going to stop chemo for a while and ended up that was a permanent thing. But because she had liver cancer and because your liver processes everything that goes through your body, they wanted to cut out any unnecessary medications. Now I'm like, whoa, whoa, wait a minute, because months before or even the month before, it was necessary. And we went from, I want to say by that time, about at the height, it was 15 or 16 drugs a day, but we went at that point, we were about a dozen. We went from a dozen down to 6. And all I could think was, so she didn't really need all that other stuff. She really didn't need it. And the other thing I found frustrating was, if you are a young female pediatric patient, I don't believe they do this with women. They actually might, but definitely with young females, they put you on birth control and this bizarre attempt to control Mother Nature so they can calculate when you're going to get your period so it doesn't affect chemo and you don't lose too much blood and get too anemic, blah, 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 blah. But you can't control Mother Nature. And my sister at 15, who had never been on birth control before, was on birth control twice a day. And I wish I had really pushed back on that, because I know that was part of many things that were making her nauseous. And another young woman who was the same age as my sister, diagnosed at the same time at the same hospital, totally different cancer, they had her on birth control 4 times a day. And I actually spoke to her mom and I said, you need to talk to them about that, because it may not be the chemo that's making her nauseous, but 4 birth control pills a day, yeah, that will do it. And and that was one of the first things they cut when they said, get rid of unnecessary things. Oh, she doesn't need to be on birth control. And I'm like, yeah, no, she doesn't. She doesn't. And I'm a really big fan of taking less, like you just said,
Yeah.
less chemo.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's going to be less effective. Um, the other thing, I'm curious what your thoughts are about this, is they did not give my sister initially any drugs to mitigate the side effects of chemo because they wanted to get a baseline. That's what they said. And she was miserable. And then finally, it was like, oh, yeah, we have something that can help with the nausea. And we have something that will prevent her from vomiting. But that wasn't on the table until they saw her reaction to it.
The funny thing about those medications, the anti-nausea medications, the active ingredient in those is ginger. So
Yeah.
you could cut out all of the, frankly, bullshit and just have raw ginger,
Yeah.
which
That's a
I
great tip.
which I did regularly. I mean, there were still times I would take that medication, and I had 3 different ones. I had 3 of them, and there were a couple of days, and I mean just a couple, less than a handful of days, where I would take every drug, anti-nausea drug I had, and I would take raw ginger, uh, trying to battle the nausea.
Hmm.
I I mean, back to the vitamin supplement thing. Like, they wouldn't let me take my supplements either, but I could eat as
Really?
healthy as I wanted, because it can interfere with chemo. Okay, back to, again, trying to kill the cancer without killing the host. So they can't have anything healthy in there that's going to keep you alive, because they're trying to kill everything, because they've since decided that they can't just target the, the cancer.
Oh,
Really funny, because when they were testing my breast cancer, there's something called the HER2 factor, whether it's HER2 negative or positive. And my general surgeon even said, he goes, man, if you were HER2 positive, they can actually target that. And I wasn't, but I guess there's a chemo that will just target that. And so I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I haven't done the research on that, but it's a heftier diagnosis, but it looks like there might be a better treatment for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, I digress. My point is that I invest in really good vitamins, whole food vitamins. So it's not anything synthetic. It's nothing that's going to accumulate in my body and all of that kind of stuff. It's just food. You can look at the ingredients. Every single thing is pronounceable, understandable,
Right.
all of that. But I stopped, I followed directions well, but I had these green drinks that were just full of vitamins, nutrients, vegetables, those kinds of things, and had those religiously throughout my treatments. And it helped me immensely. Like I didn't actually vomit one time during chemo, even though, like I said, it sometimes took every drug I had to dial down the nausea. But I had heard that tip from a friend of mine who, to quote her, said, yeah, I had chemo. I didn't really get what all the drama was about. Okay.
It's different for everyone.
Absolutely. 100%. Because after the first time, I remember telling my husband, I don't think I can do this, and I only had 4 times. So he's like, hey, just 3 more times, and he would help me. But it's not a party, not a party.
So I want to read you the comments. There's a telltale sign that Big Pharma spends more on marketing than on research. Smiley face. And by the way, thank you. I feel like the special person enjoying this conversation and the insightful information. You are very welcome.
Yeah.
And Jean, I don't know if you say Jean or Jeannie, but my middle name is spelled exactly that way. She said, I read a statistic, I think from the American Cancer Society, that the average cancer patient will spend $45,000 out of pocket in the first year of their diagnosis and treatment for non-covered medical expenses and ancillary expenses such as childcare, travel expenses, etc. Is that your experience? I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah. So I was in a fortunate situation where I had older children. So my cancer journey spans about 10 years. So when I was first diagnosed, it was a stage 0 pre-cancer called DCIS. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's ductal carcinoma in situ, and it's confined to the ducts of your breast. It is, again, it's a stage 0 pre-cancer. Some people don't even call it cancer, but it was so widespread throughout my entire breast with one minor tumor that a mastectomy was a reasonable solution to that, so that it didn't ever turn into cancer, right? So I opted for the mastectomy. I didn't know if insurance was going to cover a mastectomy on the other side because that side was not diseased. Mm-hmm. That was a fun little waiting period. And from a plastic surgeon standpoint, you can make 2 matching each other more than you can make one. Try to match one that is, like gravity, breastfeeding children, ski slope, boob, right? I'm just going to say it. So I opted for that and then had to wait to see if insurance was going to cover it, which was really crazy, right? So they left breast tissue in my axilla, which is your underarm. Only about 2 to 6% of people have breast tissue there. I did. And so over the next 8 years, it grew into invasive cancer. That's where the chemo and the radiation comes in. So I had another really small tumor because I had changed a lot of stuff. I changed my diet, exercise, things like that. And so I was spending a lot of money, let me just say, on better supplements, organic food, joining a gym, those kinds of things. So that's a small expense. When it happened again, when it came back, and I really had, because they wanted me to have the toxic treatments, I was doing a lot deeper dives thinking, gosh, I thought I was on top of this. Apparently I'm not. So now I'm back to the drawing board. I'm researching, I'm looking, which led me down, more of a holistic path. Some of the books I read about people curing themselves and saying no to toxic treatments, I say this with all due respect. One of the things they don't talk about is how much time and how much money they obviously had available to them.
Yeah.
to pursue that way of healing.
Yeah, I
Because
totally
the
agree.
average bear does not. The average guy gets diagnosed and still has to get up and go to work the next day.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I was a stay-home mom for 20 years, so I was at home. My kids were 11 and 8 the first time around. You know, flash forward 8 years, they were much older. They were driving, they were self-sufficient. So it was a different ball game. I got to do a lot more things for myself as far as diet. And I mean, when I couldn't pick my head up off the pillow, I got to just lay there.
Right.
Didn't have a boss or a job per se outside the home that I had to go to. So in
It's
that
a
respect,
Yeah, it's a great point. I'm thinking of someone right now who I interviewed, and she did her radiation really early, I think from 7 to 7:45 in the morning, and then went straight to work.
yes, another
Yeah,
friend of mine
yeah,
did that as well. Would go very early in the morning and then have to go to work all day. And I don't even know. I mean, she had a good reaction with her skin. My skin looked like, you know, it was doing its best imitation of a lizard shedding its skin. You know, and then add in the bleeding and the stuff. Okay, because lizards don't do that. But yeah, so the skin was just flaking off. My skin was cracking and bleeding. It was insane. I can't imagine having to actually put clothes on that and go function.
yeah.
I, you know, and I was pretty proactive. I had, you know, they prescribe like certain lotions that have ingredients that I would never use on a good day. So I remember searching for the best lotion to put on my skin, and I would have to bring it in and show them the ingredients label because they wouldn't allow you to put any good stuff. If it had vitamin E in it, if it had vitamin C in it, the only good thing they would allow is aloe.
Mm,
And so after radiation, then you could start pouring the vitamins on your skin, which I did. I poured straight vitamin E on my skin and stuff like that. But again, it's super weird. It's super weird how they don't want you doing anything that can help keep anything alive.
mm.
That's just that's my simple way of saying it. So
Thank you so much. I want to wrap up by showing this statement because I think this is so critical. I actively and constantly tell myself how much I love me. And I want to know, one, where that came from. And two, I just want to tell you on a personal level, I love it so much because I didn't get to that place for a very long time. And my screensaver on my main big, huge computer that we're on right now um, is it like a twirling, text thing. And it says, I am worthy. And it's
mm,
there on purpose. It's to every time I come into my office, that is there. And I remind myself that I am worthy. So, where did this come from? And how did how do you do that? How do you tell yourself that you love me every day?
yeah, great question. I found that in Louise Hay's books.
Mhm.
And that again was in this round two of realizing I hadn't done all the work. I thought
Mm,
I had done all of this work on my lifestyle and realized that I hadn't done the work on the inside. So I changed the diet. I changed my stress levels as much as possible. I mean, I'm a pretty fiery girl, but I was exercising more. But I realized that some of those deep hurts that I hadn't addressed were still, those tapes were still running in the background
mm,
and creating like a mindset of that wasn't conducive to health. It was more conducive to illness and disease. And that's where all of that comes in. The positive thinking, the changing of the tapes that are playing in your head. So there's a lot of stuff from my childhood that made me feel like I wasn't necessarily worthy of love.
like what? If you don't mind sharing.
I don't. You know, my dad left us when I was 5 years old.
Mm,
Uh, he was an alcoholic, drug addict, and he, you know, I was pissed off at him for the first 20 years of my life. And you know, I was looking for love in all the wrong places, trying to get that validation from boys and then men. And, you know, just obviously that wasn't working out. That's not going to work out. That's not the way to find real love in this world. So I kept getting it reinforced back to me when those relationships would fall apart or wouldn't turn out the way I hoped. It just reinforced that I am not lovable. I'm not worthy of love. I don't deserve love, those kinds of things. So, and again, I spent the next 20 years of my life building a relationship with my dad, because through therapy, I wrote a letter to him that I was never going to send, but it just kind of let it all out. And then it was actively forgiving those grievances that I laid out. Right. And I thought it was going to be this hallelujah moment, this epiphany, and all was going to be right in the world. Not so much. But what I realized is, from that moment on, when I did have interaction with my father, I started being very aware of the young boy that was never taught how to be a dad.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it helped me really see him in a different light and have grace for him. And by the time my father passed away, in my 40s, he was reconciled to both of his children. He had almost 30 years of sobriety. He
Wow.
was giving back constantly to the community that helped him get sober, and helping young men who were the him that he used to be, if you will. So it was really cool. Like he was living his best life in those moments. So
Hmm.
I just
Oh.
think that the default setting for me is definitely feeling unworthy, and I have to really work hard to change that. And I do. I challenge myself all the time to say things in a positive way, no matter what it is. But absolutely looking in the mirror, which feels really strange, but Louise Hay suggests this, at first, looking in the mirror and just telling yourself, like, I love you, Carol. I love you. You're awesome. Like, even when I was growing out the mullet from chemo, I would just be like, dude, you got good hair. Look at that hair. It's growing in, just anyway. Yeah. But
All right, we need to wrap up. So I want to say a couple of things. First of all, thank you so much if you were watching live, and thank you for the comments that we
thanks,
received.
everybody.
If you are watching this after we end the broadcast, please drop something in the comments. Let us know. If you want Carol to see the comment immediately, make sure you kind of like do the little tag and tag her, Carol Wyllie. Please go on Amazon and buy Carol Wyllie's book, Chemo Pissed Me Off, since she cannot advertise on Amazon. Okay, so you learned something new today about that for sure. Carol, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to do another Ask the Author at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with David Metzger's book, Nurse Papa. And he is a pediatric oncology nurse. So it should be a really interesting conversation. And again, if you really like this, you like these lives, please give us a thumbs up. Please share. And please tag Carol if you have any questions for her. Thank you so much again, Carol. And we'll see everybody next week.
Yep, thanks.